It begins with silence, the kind of silence that feels wrong. No birdsong in the morning, no hum of passing airplanes, no distant traffic, just nothing. At first, people thought it was just coincidence, maybe the weather, maybe a power outage. But then, at 6:13 a.m. Eastern Time, every screen on Earth flickered. Cell phones, televisions, air traffic monitors, even billboards. All of them turned black. Then came the message, a voice, not in any language we know, but somehow every human heard it in their own tongue. Some described it as a whisper. Others said it was like thunder inside their skulls. But the message was the same. Humanity, prepare. The words echoed for exactly 60 seconds. Then the screens went dark again, and the sky changed. At first it looked like clouds, but within minutes, people around the world saw them. Massive black shapes cutting across the horizon. Ships, not like airplanes, not like anything humans had built. They were enormous, some the size of cities, hanging in the sky without sound, without wings, without smoke. In New York, one blotted out the rising sun. In Beijing, another hovered like a mountain above the skyline. Over Cairo, people dropped to their knees as the shadow swallowed the pyramids. By 8 a.m., the ships had arrived over every major city on Earth. Panic spread faster than fire. Governments scrambled. Fighter jets scrambled. News anchors screamed live into cameras as millions fled into the streets. But nothing moved the ships. They didn't fire. They didn't signal. They just waited. For hours, humanity stared up at the sky, wondering. And then, at noon, they finally acted. The first beam struck Los Angeles. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't fire. It was a column of blinding white light shooting straight from the ship above into the city below. Within seconds, entire blocks of downtown evaporated. Not burned, not crushed, erased. Concrete turned to dust, cars to ash. People to shadows burned into the ground. The city screamed. The world screamed. But before anyone could understand what happened, the second beam fell, this time on Paris, and the war began. The President of the United States called an emergency, broadcast, his face pale, voice shaking as he announced martial law. Across the Atlantic, the European Union declared war against the unidentified extraterrestrial invaders. Russia mobilized nuclear silos. China ordered every satellite weapon online. Humanity united for the first time. But it was already too late, because the aliens were not here to negotiate. They were here to claim. By nightfall, Earth was burning. Los Angeles, Paris, Cairo, Mumbai, Sydney. Beams of light tore through them all. Cities fell like dominoes. People fled into the countryside. Roads jammed with abandoned cars. Families ran into forests, deserts, mountains. Anywhere the sky wasn't filled with shadows. And still, the ships hung silently, patiently. It wasn't war. It was extermination. But then something happened. No one expected. In the middle of the chaos, resistance began to rise. Not armies, not governments, ordinary people. The second night of invasion was worse than the first. By then, entire nations were burning. Cities that had stood for centuries were reduced to rubble. Landmarks vanished in seconds. The Eiffel Tower, the Sydney Opera House, the Golden Gate Bridge, all gone. The world had never seen destruction on this scale. Not from wars, not from natural disasters. This was something beyond comprehension. And yet, humanity refused to kneel. In Washington, D.C., the Pentagon came alive with desperate activity. Generals barked orders. Satellites streamed blurry images of alien ships. Analysts scrambled to find patterns in the beams of light that erased. At cities. Finally, the order came down from the president himself. Fight back. At 2 a.m. Eastern Time, the first counterattack began. Dozens of F-35 fighter jets screamed into the night sky, locking missiles onto the massive ship hovering over New York. The world watched live on television. Every screen showed the same thing. Jets streaking like fireflies, launching missile after missile into the alien shadow above the city. Explosions blossomed against its surface. Fire, smoke, shockwaves. For the first time, people dared to hope. Maybe the invaders could bleed. But then the smoke cleared, and the ship was still there, untouched. The jets circled back for another run. This time, the alien ship responded. A single flash of blue light streaked across the sky. It was faster than lightning, brighter than the sun, and in an instant, every jet turned to ash. Dozens of pilots, gone. New York fell silent. Around the world, people watching gasped. The message was clear. Humanity's weapons were nothing, but governments weren't finished. Within hours, Russia fired its first nuclear missile at the ship over Moscow. The explosion lit up the night sky brighter than day. For a brief moment, the city believed it had worked. Then the fireball vanished, swallowed by a shimmering shield around the alien vessel. The ship didn't even shake. Moscow was spared the beam that night, but the message was the same. Even our most powerful weapons were useless. Panic gave way to despair. In London, people broke into grocery stores, hoarding what little food was left. In Mexico City, gangs formed, seizing streets block by block. In Africa, entire villages fled into the wilderness, abandoning technology and light, praying the ships would not notice them. It was the end of civilization as humanity had known it, but not everyone gave up. Beneath the chaos, small groups began to form, soldiers who refused to surrender, scientists desperate to study the invaders, ordinary people determined to fight for their families. They were scattered, unorganized, hopelessly outmatched. But something had shifted in the human spirit. The invaders had underestimated one thing: humanity's refusal to die quietly. It began in a ruined city in Japan. Tokyo had been struck by 3 beams in the first wave, leaving little more than smoldering rubble. But in the wreckage, a group of survivors noticed something strange. One of the beams had misfired. Instead of erasing a skyscraper completely, it had left behind a twisted fragment of alien metal, a shard glowing faintly with blue light. The survivors brought it to a hidden bunker, where a former university physicist began to study it. What they discovered changed everything. The shard was not indestructible. The beam that destroyed the city had overloaded it, cracking its surface. And inside, they found circuitry unlike anything on Earth, but circuitry that could be damaged. The aliens were not gods, they were machines. Machines that could break, worded, spread quietly through underground channels. A weakness, however small, existed. It wasn't long before whispers reached the ears of resistance groups across the world. In Berlin, in Rio, in Toronto, even in the ashes of New York, survivors passed. The rumor, the aliens can be hurt. The governments didn't believe it at first. They were too consumed by their own failures, too blind to the chaos unraveling. But in the shadows, ordinary people listened, and they prepared. Meanwhile, the ships continued, their silent assault. Cities were erased one by one, but then something changed. The beams began targeting military bases instead of civilians, US missile silos in Montana, a Chinese naval fleet in the Pacific, a French air base. The aliens were no longer just exterminating at random. They were dismantling Earth's defenses with terrifying precision. It became clear they weren't just here to kill. They were here to conquer. 3 days into the invasion, a new message came. Once again, every screen flickered black. Once again, the voice entered every human mind. But this time, the message was longer. This world belongs to us. Your resistance is irrelevant. Those who surrender will serve. Those who fight will perish. Decide. And then silence. The world was divided. Some wanted to surrender, to live as slaves rather than die as dust. Others swore they'd rather burn than bow. Riots broke out. Governments collapsed. Entire armies deserted. But in the middle of the chaos, the resistance made their move. In the mountains of Colorado, an abandoned NORAD bunker became the heart of the human fight. A mix of soldiers, scientists, and civilians gathered, carrying with them fragments of alien metal scavenged from ruined cities. They worked tirelessly, reverse engineering what little they could understand. They discovered the alien ships ran on energy unlike anything on Earth, a fusion of plasma and something that bent the laws of physics. But more importantly, they discovered the shields were not perfect. Every time a beam fired, the shields flickered for a fraction of a second. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. The first human counterstrike came at dawn on the 5th day. A ragtag group of fighter jets, rearmed with modified warheads built from alien shards, took to the skies. Their target, the ship over Denver. The world watched again. The jets streaked upward, their missiles trailing fire. The alien ship shimmered, its shield glowing bright as the missiles struck. For a moment, it seemed like nothing had changed, but then a flicker, a crack, a ripple across the alien surface. One of the missiles punched through. The explosion tore into the hull, sending a shockwave across the sky. For the first time since the invasion began, an alien ship was damaged, and it screamed, a sound like nothing human ears had heard before. A deep, vibrating roar that shook the ground. Windows shattered. People clutched their ears, crying out. The ship lurched, sparks raining from its surface, and then, to the astonishment of billions, it retreated. The Denver ship rose higher and higher into the sky, until it vanished into the clouds. Cheers erupted across the world. People ran into the streets, crying, hugging strangers. For the first time, hope returned. The aliens were not invincible, but hope came at a cost. Of the 10 jets that launched the attack, only 1 returned. The others were vaporized instantly, and the pilot who survived whispered words that chilled the resistance. It wasn't just a ship. There were things inside, things that were alive. The pilot's words haunted the resistance. things inside, things that were alive. Until then, most had assumed the ships were unmanned machines, automated weapons of conquest. But now there was no doubt. The invaders were not just technology, they were flesh. They were here, and they were watching. That night, the world changed again. In the ruins of Mexico City, survivors hiding in the subway tunnels reported seeing figures moving through the wreckage. Not soldiers, not drones. Something else. Tall, thin shapes, arms too long, heads too narrow, skin glowing faintly with blue veins like liquid lightning running beneath the surface, and their eyes, enormous, black, soulless, reflecting light, like glass. The first true sighting of the aliens spread like wildfire. Videos leaked online, blurry clips of figures moving among the wreckage, bending impossibly, their limbs snapping into place like machines. People swore the aliens weren't walking, they were floating just above the ground. Some claimed they were collecting bodies. Others said they were feeding. No one could agree. But one truth was undeniable. The aliens had come down from their ships. Earth was no longer just under siege, it was occupied. In Colorado, the resistance bunker erupted with frantic debate. Need to study them. They'll slaughter us if we go near. If we can kill one, we can find their weakness. The argument raged until one man stepped forward. Captain Elias Grant, a decorated soldier who had lost his family in the first wave. His voice was calm, steady, but cold with grief. "I'll go," he said. "We need answers. We can't fight ghosts." The mission was suicide. But Grant wasn't alone. A small team volunteered. A scientist named Dr. Lena Morgan, whose knowledge of alien technology was unmatched. A communications expert, Ravi Patel, who could hijack enemy signals. And a medic, Ana Alvarez, who had saved dozens in the ruins of Miami. Together, they formed the first true resistance strike team. Their mission, capture one of the aliens alive. 3 nights later, they slipped into the ruins of Kansas City, where an alien ship hovered silently over the broken skyline. The streets were littered with ash. Shadows burned into the walls from the first beams. The team moved silently, their modified weapons glowing faintly with shards of alien crystal embedded in the barrels, and then they saw it. An alien stood among the ruins. It was taller than any human, its body impossibly thin, its movements fluid yet unnatural. Its skin shimmered with blue veins. Its face was expressionless, eyes black voids reflecting nothing but hunger. Dr. Morgan whispered into her recorder, "Bioluminescence in the circulatory system, possibly energy-based life form." But before she could finish, the creature turned. Its head. It had seen them. The alien moved faster than the eye could follow. One moment it was standing still. The next, it was inches away, its long fingers reaching for Grant's throat. Grant fired. The modified rifle erupted with blue fire. The shard ammunition tore into the alien's chest. For the first time, an alien screamed, a high-pitched metallic shriek that echoed through the ruins. The creature collapsed, writhing, its body convulsing. They had done it. They had wounded one. But victory came at a price. The moment the alien screamed, the ship above the city shifted. A beam of light pierced the ground only a block away. The team had minutes before the entire area was vaporized. With desperate strength, they dragged the thrashing alien into a truck and sped away, vanishing into the countryside just as the beam consumed the ruins. Kansas City was gone. But the resistance had their prize. Back in Colorado, scientists swarmed the captive. It wasn't dead. Not yet. Bound in restraints forged from scavenged alien metal, the creature twitched and hissed, its black eyes watching everything with terrifying stillness. Dr. Morgan led the study. She discovered its body was both organic and mechanical. Veins, glowing with energy that seemed to pulse like circuitry. A hybrid of flesh and machine. "They aren't just aliens," she whispered. "They're engineered. Soldiers built for war." As days passed, they learned more. The aliens communicated in frequencies humans couldn't hear. They could bend light, making themselves nearly invisible in the dark. And worst of all, their blood was alive. When one of the scientists accidentally spilled a drop, it crawled across the floor like liquid metal, trying to rejoin the alien's body. The realization was horrifying. They weren't individuals. They were parts of something larger. A hive. And then the alien spoke, not in words, not in sound, but in every mind present in the bunker. "You cannot win. You are not the first. You will not be the last." The scientists froze. The soldiers gripped their weapons. But the alien only stared, its black eyes reflecting nothing. Dr. Morgan trembled as she asked the question that haunted everyone. "Why are you here?" The answer chilled them to the bone. "Harvest." The truth came out slowly, in fragments, pulled from the creature's mind. The aliens had visited countless worlds before Earth. Each one had been stripped, drained, consumed. Civilizations reduced to ash. Species harvested for their genetic code, their resources, their energy. Earth was not special. It was just next, and humanity was nothing more than fuel. The revelation broke many. Some scientists refused to continue, muttering that resistance was futile. A few soldiers deserted, fleeing into the wilderness, but for others, it hardened their resolve. Captain Grant stood before the bunker one night, staring up at the sky where dozens of ships loomed like silent predators. "They've beaten others before us," he said, "but not us, not humanity. We fight or we die, and I'm not dying on my knees." His words spread through the bunker like fire. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a purpose beyond survival. They would fight back. But the aliens had their own plans. On the 7th day of the invasion, the ships moved again. This time they didn't just target cities or bases, they targeted dams, power plants, communication hubs. Within hours, half the world's electricity was gone. Darkness spread across continents. The message was clear: the aliens weren't just erasing humanity. They were dismantling civilization piece by piece. And then came the worst blow of all. The Denver ship, the one humanity had damaged, returned, but this time it wasn't alone. 3 more ships descended with it, forming a triangle in the sky above Colorado. The resistance bunker shook as their combined beams lanced down, tearing into the mountainside. The war had come to their doorstep. The ground shook as the first beam struck the mountain. Inside the bunker, alarms blared. Concrete cracked. Dust rained from the ceiling. The resistance had seconds before the alien ships reduced their sanctuary to ash. Captain Grant barked orders. "Move! Evacuate the lower levels! Get the scientists out!" Dr. Morgan clutched her notes, her hands trembling. Everything they had learned, the alien physiology, the shard weapons, the hive mind, it couldn't be lost. If humanity had any chance, that knowledge had to survive. "Where do we run?" someone shouted. Grant's jaw tightened. "We don't run, we fight." The bunker roared to life. Fighters scrambled from hidden hangars. Modified missiles were loaded onto trucks. Every man and woman capable of holding a weapon took their place. Above, the 3 alien ships circled like vultures, their beams tearing chunks of rock from the mountain. The ground split, fire spilling into the night. And then, the alien soldiers came. They descended in swarms, tall, thin figures gliding effortlessly down beams of blue light, their bodies glowing with veins of living energy. Hundreds of them, their black eyes fixed on the humans below. The resistance opened fire. Shard-powered rifles crackled, unleashing bolts of energy that tore through alien flesh. For the first time, human bullets mattered. Aliens screamed as they fell, their bodies writhing in sparks of blue fire. But for every alien that fell, 2 more appeared. The battlefield was chaos. Dr. Morgan and her team dragged the captive aliens into a reinforced chamber, hoping to extract one last secret before the bunker was destroyed. "You said we're part of a harvest," she demanded, her voice cracking. "Why us? Why Earth?" The alien's black eyes glimmered. Its voice echoed inside her head. "Your kind burns bright. Energy, spirit, defiance. We consume it before it consumes the stars." Morgan's blood ran cold. This wasn't just conquest, this was control. The aliens weren't just predators. They were prison guards. Humanity was dangerous to them, too dangerous to be allowed to grow. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Captain Grant fought like a man already dead. His rifle spat blue fire, cutting down alien after alien. Around him, soldiers fell, their screams drowned out by the shrieks of the invaders. And then he saw it. Above the battlefield, the damaged Denver ship hovered lower than the rest. Sparks still leaked from the wound humans had inflicted days earlier. Its shield flickered with each beam it fired. Grant's eyes narrowed. This was their chance. He grabbed his comm. "Patel, can you hack their systems?" Ravi's voice crackled, back frantic. "I've been trying, sir. I think I can overload the damaged core, but I'll need a direct uplink. Someone has to get inside the ship." Grant didn't hesitate. "Then I'll go." The plan was suicide. But there was no time to argue. As the resistance faltered, Grant sprinted through the battlefield, dodging beams of light, weaving through fire and ash. He reached a transport truck, slammed his hand on the controls, and roared toward the hovering ship. Alien soldiers swarmed him, their claws slashing at the vehicle. Grant swerved, firing his rifle through the window, mowing them down one by one. Finally, with a scream of vengeance, he drove straight into the beam of light, and in an instant, he was lifted upward, pulled into the belly of the alien ship. The spy. Interior was a nightmare. Walls pulsed like veins, glowing with blue light. The air was thick, metallic, alive. Pods lined the corridors, each one holding human bodies suspended in glowing liquid. Men, women, children, some still alive. eyes wide with terror. Others already drained, their skin pale as paper. It wasn't just invasion, it was farming. Grant forced himself to move, rage boiling in his chest. He slammed the uplink device into the glowing core at the center of the chamber. Patel, I'm in. The core pulsed violently. The ship shuddered. Sparks exploded across the walls. Ravi's voice came back, breathless. It's working, but you need to hold it. 30 seconds. 30 seconds felt like 30 years. Aliens poured into the chamber, their black eyes fixed on him. Grant opened fire, his rifle, screaming blue light, his voice hoarse with fury. He shot until the weapon overheated, then drew his knife, slashing, stabbing, fighting like a cornered beast. The core's glow intensified. The ship shook violently, and then silence. The core collapsed in on itself, a blinding flash ripping through the chamber. On the ground, the Resistance watched as the Denver ship convulsed. Its shields shattered, its hull splitting apart. With a roar like thunder, the entire vessel collapsed, crashing into the mountains in a storm of fire and lightning. The battlefield froze. Every alien soldier shrieked in unison, then fell, lifeless, to the ground. The hive link was broken. Cheers erupted from the humans. The impossible had happened. They had destroyed an alien ship, but their joy was short-lived. In the skies above, the other ships shifted. One by one, their black void eyes turned toward Earth's defenders. And then, for the first time, they moved. Together, dozens of ships began to descend. Dr. Morgan staggered out of the bunker, her face pale, her eyes hollow. She had heard the aliens' warning. You cannot win. You are not the first. You will not be the last. Even with one ship destroyed, humanity was still hopelessly outnumbered. But something had changed. They weren't prey anymore. They weren't helpless. For the first time, they had struck back. And in that moment, hope was born. As the surviving Resistance gathered, Ravi looked to the sky, his voice trembling. We can't fight them all. Morgan nodded. Not yet. But we can learn. We can adapt. And we can survive. Her eyes burned with a new fire. They came to harvest us. But maybe, just maybe, we'll be the ones to devour them. Above, the alien armada blotted out the stars. Below, in the ashes of a broken world, humanity's survivors stood bloodied, battered but unbroken. The war was far from over. It had only just begun. And as the skies filled with alien ships and Earth prepared for the next chapter of this war, one question remained. Will humanity rise? Or will we fall? If you want to know what happens next, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell. Because the next battle is coming, and you won't want to miss it.